teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel. Apologies for the change in setup today. Usually we're out by the colourful bricks, but we've had some issues in the house this morning and last night. So bit of a challenging day. We've also got workmen kind of next door surrounding me. So if you hear any noises, you may hear them through the walls. Hopefully you won't, but there we are. I had a problem with my AC around 9 p.m. last night because I've got two ACs. I've got one here in the bedroom, which is working, thankfully, knock wood, and I've got one in the main living area. And the AC units here are quite old. So when they need attention, what they do, much like any little baby who wants a word, is they start crying. So water just pours down the wall whenever it needs cleaning, whenever something needs changing, or it just needs you to look at it a bit more carefully. It just starts pouring water. So that started about 9 p.m, which was useful because maintenance closes at 4. I called maintenance this morning when they opened at 10, and they were like, yeah, no, we'll send somebody, and they haven't sent anyone. And I called them half an hour to an hour ago, and they were like, oh, no one's come yet? Yeah, we'll check on it. And still no one's come. So there's a chance we might get interrupted by that. If we do, I apologise, but not really, because I want my AC back. But currently the living room is really quite warm. It's got a real feel of 41 degrees today, which is 106. And I just couldn't quite face sitting there to do a recap. So here we are. We have got a fair amount to go through. Some of this I didn't want to talk about at all. Here's the problem I have with Foodie more and more recently is when it's stuff she's recycling, when it's stuff that just makes me really uncomfortable to discuss because the way she discusses things tends to be awful. I sit here and I go, I don't really want to say anything, so sometimes I just choose not to react. But some things, when they're going on and they're quite big, you can't really move on without referencing them. So I'm in this weird position where I'm like, oh, really? But there we go. So we've got quite a few things to talk about today. We'll start with, did Debbie have a role in coercing the charges? My thoughts, which was a pre-recorded video, which we haven't seen for a while. A pointless pre-recorded video, but pre-recorded nonetheless. She had a live called Quick Beeze. She had another live called Best Poutine Around, which didn't really have anything in it. She had a couple of rages about garlic bread. Sorry, I'm reading as I do this. It was called Listen Stale Garlic Bread. And then there was another called Yes, DV is A About Me. She did go on a deleting spree this morning, so I saw the rages last night, but it was quite late and I was dealing with the AC crap. And then I watched a little bit of the last one, which is okay, I finally saw it all, and then I fell asleep. And I woke up this morning and it was all dirty deleted, so I was like, great, perfect. So if I'm confusing this slightly, I'm trying not to. I will try, I don't have it in front of me right now, but because the rages were only a couple of minutes, in post I'm going to try and download the rages and just insert them so you can hear them, because me recapping them just isn't going to have the same impact. I think it's something like, it's awful to hear, but you really kind of do need to hear to really get the full extent of it. Okay, so let's go into, did Debbie have a role in coercing the charges? There's very little new in here, nothing new. In fact, I don't think. And my whole overall response to the entire video was, so what? I was thinking last night when I thought this would be the highlight, is highlight the right word? This would be the main focus of the evening. I was considering doing a full react, and then my response was just the same all the way through it. So it didn't feel worthwhile. But she's talking about the same thing she's been talking about for months. Like at some point in one of her previous lives, I don't feel in this video, but at some point during one of her previous lives, she did show a text message of her asking Dee Dee if she had to go to the station to get the charges dropped. And then Dee Dee basically told her she can't have the charges ignored. Because if you remember that email, which she does also show in this video, because it's a receipts video, if you remember the email she said basically, all these things happened, but for my mental health and the fact that I love him, I don't want to go through with the charges. And she was told basically, well, you've already brought the charges, so if it's worth moving forward with, that's a decision for the Crown, not for you. So she couldn't just have the charges ignored. And so Dee told her basically, if you want the charges dropped, you're going to have to go in and recant them completely, which is what Chantal ended up doing. She ended up going in saying, I was high, I have poor mental health, I didn't really understand what was going on, anything she needed to do to get the charges put aside. So she justifies this a little bit because she realizes that she's not on great footing with the whole lying to the police. She says, first time I said the charges, I had to swear an oath, so I didn't lie. The second time I didn't swear an oath. So it's okay to lie? I'm not sure the point she thinks she's making with that. I guess that kind of technically it wasn't illegal because they didn't make me promise. And I'm like, spirit of the law, my dude. I don't understand though why this matters. I don't understand why she's bringing it up now. I don't get what Chantal thinks the goal of this is, because she's mixing up internet shit and real life shit again, where she's saying, like, I think she's got this idea of, if people believe me on this, then I win. And she doesn't seem to get, no, I believed her the first time. I believed her when she says that she spoke to Dee and Dee was like, no, you have to commit to it. If you want it dropped, you have to basically say it never happened. I could 100% believe that was a conversation they had. Yeah, and it's been quite a consistent point of conversation, whereas her lies go all over the place. It doesn't surprise me about Dee at all. And from what we've seen, Chantal sort out her answer. She sent the text message saying, hey, so can I just go in and get it dropped? I don't see what she's getting out of this, to be honest. Because if she's saying, well, no, I only did it because Dee made me, that is objectively not true. Because she has confirmed now and numerous occasions before now that she did it because she was so obsessed and so distraught and just really wanted to see him that she would have done anything. Now, do I think that that Dee then was like, okay, so get the charges dropped. This is how you do it. Yeah, I can believe that. But does that mean that Dee coerced Foodie? No. And I also really dislike this narrative that her chat go with that basically say, well, go in and tell the police that she intimidated you. No, she didn't. From what I can see, from what Foodie has provided, she told her the answer to the question, which is, hey, this will not work. If you want it gone, if you want it set aside, you have to go and cast out on you as a reporter, because otherwise it's outside of your hands. And that's what she did. But Dee did not put a gun to her head. Dee didn't threaten her in any way. The only threat that Chantal was under there was the one created by her own brain, which was, I can't be with him otherwise. And that's her issue. It's down to her. So I can 100% believe that both Dee and Nada would have leapt on any opportunity to say, well, okay, well, this is how you get us out of this. But Chantal's own obsessions did the work there. We then move on to Quick Beeze, which is in the car. She's talking about going to the berry patch, and then she just decides to buy berries instead because picking berries is physically taxing, which, fair enough. She's blocked the Moroccan guy because he was the respectful guy who's like, oh, I want to take you out to dinner, if you remember. But he didn't message her back quickly enough. And then she messaged him the day before, a couple of days ago on the timeline, and he didn't answer. And then he was messaging her the following day, and I guess she didn't answer out of spite. I'm not sure. But so when he mentions that, and he's like, hey, by the way, I'm mad at you. I was messaging you yesterday and you didn't answer. She got a little bit triggered by that because she doesn't handle not being answered in the text messages very well. And we've seen that a lot. She got no chill with it. And she was like, and you're going to be mad at me? I don't know the tone at which he said, hey, you were ignoring me, or if it was just meant as something playful, which is kind of what it sounds like. But she's like, red flags. And then she turns it into, oh, and he went on a homophobic rant. And I was like, sorry? I'm actually a little confused how we got from one to the other, but she frames her blocking him as kind of a stand on gay rights, because, you know, she's bi, but not really, but maybe when she feels like using it, or it might make good content. Anyway, she blocked him. She blocked him is the upshot of that. She makes the point, as she has frequently, I'm going to talk about things that happen to me as long as I want to, and I'm mostly outing lies and bullshit at this point. She mentions that Nada used fish stick as a replacement for a slur, which didn't seem to bother her so much when she was trying to get back together with him, and that's just an ongoing point. All the terrible things that she is telling us he did, which are entirely believable, also don't reflect well on her, because as he was doing all these things that she's holding up to prove what an awful piece of garbage he is, which I think he is, she knowingly was trying to get back with him. Like, with all of these things, with all of this stuff, if we are to take it as truth, she looked at it and she went, yeah, I don't care, I want to be with him. So just remember that when she's throwing it out. The conversation goes back to Nada and Dee. I'm guessing in reference, when she was in the car, I think she had already uploaded the pre-recorded video. But again, I don't know what she's trying to prove here. She's like, hey, don't be stupid. She admitted this. She said, if you want the peace bond dropped, you have to do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, yeah, and what is us believing that achieving? I believe it, but it doesn't change anything. Her saying this is what needs to be done is not the same as Foodie doing it, and Foodie has no separation there at all. She says, I was upset and I have to talk to her, the woman who caused this, or at least a big part of it. And I'm like, wait, have to? No, not have to. Before we rewrite this entire piece of history, yeah, she got triggered by the fact that Dee was there. Bear in mind that she sometimes frames this weekend away, where it was meant to be like he might come with her, and then it was meant to be a separation, and then sometimes she takes it as like her reclaiming her power, and it was a break from him, and the amount of stories we've heard about the weekend. But anyway, so he moves Dee in to prove the point that he can, and they're not together, and then she gets super triggered and she goes and revenge reports him. That is what happened. And we don't know if Dee hadn't been there that day. We don't know if she would have been pushed to that. But Dee seems to have been that particular straw that broke her back. But saying, okay, I did it because of Dee is not quite the same as saying, well, Dee caused it. No, Dee did not make you go. You chose to go because you were angry about the fact that Dee was there. They're two entirely different things. There was no action on Dee's part other than her existence in a place. Foodie chose what Foodie did. Now, according to Chantal at the time, even if you put aside the essay, because she goes back and forth on that and what she considers essay, and if it was essay so much, and she's done it so much on camera, I don't feel we can hold it up as a secure piece of the narrative. According to Foodie, there was something to report, okay? So I'm not saying that she shouldn't have reported something if there was something to report, but it was her outrage of being replaced that got her to the station that day. And, you know, we saw that. She went live when she was driving there. We saw it. She then bizarrely says to someone in her chat, I didn't say she caused it. Exactly. I'm like, sorry, what? You literally just did. This was like a minute or two later, like, you literally just, we just did what? She does like to just pollute the narrative, doesn't she? That was all I really took from that one. I'm taking my notes because I've got no room for my computer screen here. Best poutine around. She stops for poutine and chats and talks a little bit more. There was nothing much in it. We then go on to the rages. One of which was called Listen Stale Garlic Bread, and one of which was called Yes, DV is A About Me. I am just going to put all my thoughts here together because I think I'm kind of merging them in my head, so I'm not sure exactly which one was in which. But basically, she's gone to put something on to listen to on the way home. A video has popped up and now she's super angry about it. I'm going to see if I can put the video in here, but just in case I can't, I have written out some of the things she says. So excuse me if it's doubling up here.
This is only a live stream because I'm not editing this and spending time on this loser. Those of you who know will know who it is. Stupid garlic stale. I just fucking pulled over to put something on to listen to, and I see I'm being criticized for the content of my video. Oh, I'm tone deaf. Oh, on why I should be sympathizing with Gary. So you're gonna nitpick what I'm not sympathizing with Gary over now? Are you serious? So my DV case is not as severe as Gary's disability case. Is that what you're fucking saying? Suck my ass. Suck my ass. I talked about myself because this is the case pertaining to me. What I've been through is a lot more than what Gary's been through with Natter. So yes, I think if I don't have time like you garlic stale crappy toast to be on everyone's ass on YouTube 24/7. So I did not see what Natter said about poor Gary yet. Okay? What I was defending was what I fucking saw about the stupid thing. About the stupid, I don't know, whatever, his on disability, whatever. So I was pointing out that he's a hypocrite for that reason. Now, excuse me for talking about what I find to be appropriate to do. Go on and friggin' start playing, like, I'm just so dumbfounded that people are, like, shaming me for talking about what I need to talk about. Like, just because I'm not giving more sympathy for the subject I don't even know exists yet. I don't just, okay, I heard that Natter was shaming SA victims by shaming Gary, whatever. That's all I heard in passing. I'm not the type of asshole like you, crusty bread, to fucking just go off whatever I fucking hear. So until I see the clip and listen to myself and analyze it and give my opinion, I'm not going to do a video on it. So eat shit, okay? What I do know is everything I presented in that video as fact. That's why I did that video, as it pertains to me, because I'm a victim of fucking domestic violence. For you to say that I'm not, or I shouldn't focus on that, I should focus on Gary more than my own fucking domestic violence case. Fuck you. Eat shit.
So she makes the point that everything is about me. And I'm like, nah, you're inserting yourself into a lot of things here. She speaks on a couple of really traumatic things that she doesn't really have a right to speak on at all. If she feels she was traumatized within her own life, she can speak to her own experiences, but she doesn't get to speak on other people's. That's just a precursor to all of this. And I'm mainly referring here to how she's referencing the childhood assault of another creator. Yeah, like there's real life shit and then there's trolling on the internet shit. And I think the two things are very different and should be treated and presented, or indeed not presented, as the case may warrant, very differently. And that's not where Foodie went with this. So she said, what I've been through is a lot more than what Gary has been through with Natter. I did not see what Natter said about poor Gary yet. I can't believe people are shaming me for talking about what I need to talk about because I'm not giving more sympathy for a subject I don't know exists yet. I should focus more on Gary's case than mine. And she's really angry about that idea. And I'm just, the whole time, I'm just like, oof, really? This is where you're going? Mm-mm. So she's making the claim at this point that she had seen a little bit of stuff. She knew something was kicking off between Gary and Natter. She didn't have a lot of information on it. So she's super angry that she was told she was basically being very tone deaf in the circumstances. Everything is about me. This case is about me. Sorry I wasn't thinking about Gary's fucking childhood when I'm describing something that happened to me. Because you don't like me, you have more sympathy about something that happened to him in the past. But in my case, oh no, that's not right because you can profit off of that. I hate it. I hate this entire line of conversation. I hate this. Chantal is not a sympathetic victim in the slightest, yeah? But playing Trauma Olympics with a childhood assault survivor while reporting and recanting a police report about your own essay and spending a year doing anything and everything to get back to the man you claim abused you so you can reconnect with him, regardless of whether she has the right to speak on her own experiences or not, it feels like a new low. I know frequently we've said, oh, she can't get any lower, how much further can she go? But Jesus Christ, this was low down. Whose experience is worse is not a competition, but I really, really hate how she's like, well, something that happened in the past to him, but you won't give me sympathy now. I'm like, oh God, the two things are not comparable. The two things are not comparable. Shut up. Shut up. Yeah? However seriously you take her claims, whatever sympathy you may or may not feel for her, this is not something you should be harvesting to play the who's got it worse game. This is actual serious shit. So she ends up going live again with a live saying, okay, I finally saw it all. And she tells us she's seen what's going on with Nada and Gary. Now, bear in mind, she'd referenced Gary's childhood before. She claims that she was just talking about Gary being on disability, Gary being the other creator. Unfortunately, I don't watch Gary, so I haven't heard his story firsthand. And it's not something I'm entirely comfortable hearing and discussing, which was my problem with listening to Foodie talk about it. So I'm choosing not to watch his original video. My apologies to him or anyone that offends, but it's hard to hear. And that's one of the reasons I hate so much how Chantal has chosen to insert herself into it and to use it. But we'll get into that in a minute. So she says she's finally seen what's going on with Nada and Gary and that she's watched Nada and what have you. She tells Nada he needs to apologize because it's disgusting. It is absolutely true that it was utterly disgusting for Nada to talk about it. Absolutely. I'm also finding it pretty gross how Chantal is using this whole situation. The fact that she's inserting herself into it so she has something to lift herself up over Nada, which is not a high bar. Yeah, you don't have to lift very far, but that's the reason she's mentioning it. She doesn't care if Nada apologizes. She cares that she has reason to tell him, oh, you should apologize. And then, of course, because everything revolves back around to her, you think by saying you only have a problem with Gary, it's okay. It doesn't work that way. By making fun of his sexual assault, you're making fun of everybody's. I think to an extent that's true. You can't say, well, no, SA is serious except with this person. SA is always serious. But she does exactly that with May. And even in this video, she says something to the effect of, well, just because that happened, we're not going to be best friends. And she said shit about me as well. And therefore, what, her response is justified. She doesn't get to play both sides of that as an issue. It's too important. But again, trauma is not a competition. However, in saying that, abuse of a minor, abuse of a child particularly, which is, it sounds like he was younger when this happened, tends to be a pretty hard line for most people. Yeah, there's a reason pedophiles don't do well in prison, right? Because even people who may have a flexible sense of morality usually have a line when it comes to this shit. So bringing it up as a way to justify yet another conversation about, no, look, he's terrible. We've been new. We know this. You don't need to parade this around. And then has the audacity to be like, yeah, drama found me again. Nuh-uh. You dipped yourself in butter and breadcrumbs. You threw yourself into that frying pan. This is something of your own making. You completely inserted yourself. It was an issue between Nada and Gary, and you were like, I'm going to step into this because I hate Nada. And people in the chat bring up the fact, well, you lied about SA. She has been on camera saying, oh, I don't know if that was actually true, and I may have exaggerated things to the police, and I don't think it was SA, but I reported it. And so And when they bring that up, her feelings start to turn. And she starts to turn on her audience saying, hey, how dare you? Karma will get them for accusing her of false claiming. You did false claim. You've admitted to false claiming. That's why when I'm talking about Foodie going through domestic violence versus when I'm talking about her going through SA, I keep them as separate because I think there's a stronger case for the first than there is for the second. But her real irritation is coming out here where she's saying that, you know, other alleged SA victims like May get believed, but she doesn't because she proves herself to be a liar, essentially. And of course not. And ultimately, that's what this is about. It's about her being more of a victim than other people. It's about her saying, hey, no, I went through these things and this happened to me. And why aren't you sympathetic to me? You should all be here patting my back and stroking my head and saying, poor Foodie, and being my army. When actually all of her actions are central to the reason why people don't do that. Her anger just keeps going. She starts insulting May and she says May said some shit about her before, and it ends with, well, she'd rather keep her mouth shut on that. Ends as a topic, not as a live. We should be so lucky. And I'm like, keeping your mouth shut is a choice you never make. You could have kept your mouth shut on Gary. You could have kept your mouth shut on most of what you went through with Nada. You could have kept your mouth shut when May came forward as going through the courts for an SA-related offence. You could have kept your mouth shut a lot. Silence is the option she never takes, and silence is the option she should have taken with this. The way she's riding out the Gary drama and using it just to bolster her own feelings and to strengthen her own victimhood, I suppose, is just, it's incredibly disrespectful. It's completely out of line. And it shows an incredible amount of selfishness. And I know that's not a shock from Foodie, but it really truly shows ultimately, no matter how terrible the things going on around her, no matter how serious and no matter how much consideration those things might deserve, ultimately she only cares about herself and how it impacts her and what she can use it for. And I think ultimately, if she's the only real player in her own universe, she's the only one she really counts as being important, then just be quiet about everyone else. If you want a star in your own show, you be the star and stop bringing everyone else in, because you've got no hope of speaking on it well and showing yourself to be using it for the opportunity it carries is just coming off incredibly poorly. The latter half of the stream didn't have much in, so I'm leaving it out. But just before we go, she really oddly moves back into complimenting Gary and tells him to keep going. And just as a side note, I was like, I was pretty sure she was insulting Gary before. I mean, she insults most reactors, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, you don't need to like somebody as a whole to sympathize with something as awful as his past experience. But in this case, I guess the enemy of my enemy is a friend, you know? So regardless of the fact that she couldn't stand the guy, well, now he and Nada have trouble, so we're besties. She does get asked the question, do you think he's abusing Dee? And she says, well, you've seen him be verbally abusive in videos, so probably, but I can't say. And I'm like, you can't say. You can't say about Dee, who you have had a stream of vitriol for the past, how long has it been since Dee arrived on the scene? Months and months. So she can't say that, but she'll say about May and she'll say about Gary when it's none of her business. That's an interesting set of values you're holding yourself up to there. So yes, I found today difficult to watch, difficult to get through. We've dealt with a lot with Chantal, and it's not the surprising nature of her anymore because she is very much who she is. But through the whole conversations we've had before now, through, excuse the cut there, the AC people arrived, so the living room AC is now working. Through our time with Chantal, I have had many reactions to her, intrinsic reactions. I've had many feelings about what she has done or said, and I've been angry with her before, and I've been frustrated, and I've been disgusted at more ignorance than actually what she's doing. We have talked about disgust with things like personal hygiene, food, how she's eating, how she's presenting certain relationships, the ick, yeah? But I think today was actually the first time I've come away from Chantal's live and felt a little bit sick by what I heard. And I realize we've been a long way with her. I realize we've been through racism, we've been through May before now, and the essay charges. We've been through using slurs. We've been through her views on quite a lot of stuff, and a lot of it is ignorant. But today was really the first time where I was like, I think this might be as far as I can go with this, which is why I found it difficult to piece together this reaction, but I didn't feel like it could be ignored. And her coming in and deleting these things won't erase them from the narrative the way she thinks they will. And her community post that she put up, I'm assuming afterwards, it's from about 7-8 hours ago, depending on how long it's taken me to do this, of being like, comments off, feeling blue, you shouldn't say the things you do, or whatever it is. I'll put it on screen somewhere. Nah. Comments off, feeling blue, it won't protect you from things you do. It's ridiculous the way she thinks she can just scrub the slate clean. And things like this, the way she's been doing this, shouldn't be forgotten. And I realize in the whole brand of her that that's kind of her shtick. She does ridiculous and awful things, and she gets away with it because she gets away with it. But I don't want this to be disappeared from the narrative. I don't want this to be forgotten, because I really feel like she dug new depths here today. And that's kind of where I am with it. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break, take a bit of fresh air. I'm going to check my AC is working, and I suppose I'll come in and edit this. But yeah, I didn't enjoy where she took today at all. And God forbid she learn anything from it, because I think that community post will be as much as we get. I think she'll rely straight back on, guys, I'm in a really bad place mentally. And you're like, well, yeah, have you considered where other people might be mentally? Have you considered the result of the actions you take? Because they don't unhear the things you say. The internet doesn't unhear the things you say. It's real whether you choose to own it or not. And I really hated what she did today. And that's, I suppose, where we have to finish. Okay, I'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you. Goodbye.